Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Donald Trump starts forming his team. India supporter Marco Rubio set to be Secretary of State, while co-chair of India caucus in Congress, Mike Waltz, will be the NSA. Navin Ramgoolam to be the next Prime Minister of Mauritius. India's PM Modi congratulates the veteran politician and three-time former PM on his emphatic win. Haiti's international airport shuts down amid surge in gang violence. Airlines suspend Haiti flights after plane hit by gunfire. India-Russia holds 25th Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technical and Cultural Cooperation in New Delhi. And governments at COP29 talks approve new UN standards for international carbon markets, a key step towards allowing nations to trade credits to meet climate targets. And on to the top story this hour. In the United States, President-elect Donald Trump has selected South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem as his next Secretary of State, Department of Homeland Security. The process of choosing a cabinet and selecting other high-ranking administration officials following his presidential election victory is underway. The cabinet appointees will have a direct impact on implementing Trump's policies in his second term. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has tapped Florida Senator Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State and Congressman Mike Waltz as his National Security Advisor. Rubio is considered to be a friend of India and has been an advocate of the India-U.S. relationship. While Waltz is an old Indian hand and has been co-chair of the Congressional Caucus for India and Indian Americans for years, by picking Rubio and Waltz as his top diplomat in NSA guarantees a continuation of bipartisan support and further strengthening of India-US relationship under the second Trump administration. Now let's take a look at more detailed report on Trump's choices for his cabinet.
American President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picked feature-strong foreign policy and defense leaders. Marco Rubio will be the first Latino Secretary of State, known for his tough stance on China and support for Ukraine. Mike Waltz, a National Guard colonel, will serve as the National Security Advisor, advocating for a more aggressive U.S. defense posture in the Asia-Pacific. On domestic policy, former Congressman Lee Zeldin will lead the EPA, expected to roll back environmental regulations. Former ICE Director Tom Homan returns as border czar, focusing on immigration enforcement and deportations. Elise Stefanik, a royal Trump ally, will be the U.S. ambassador to the UN, pushing for a more U.S.-centric approach, especially on the Israel and Israel-Hamas conflict. Susan Wiles, a key Trump campaign strategist, will be chief of staff, overseeing White House operations as Trump prepares for his second term. These early picks reflect Trump's priority in security, diplomacy, immigration, and the environment. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, while counting for U.S. House of Representatives is still ongoing, many projections claim Trump is going to get majority in the lower house too. That means out of total 435 legislators of the House, 218 are certain to go to Republicans, which has already grabbed a majority in the Senate with 53 out of 100 seats in total. Here's a report by DD India's Akhilesh Suman on what will be the impact of Trump's majority in both houses of the U.S. Parliament.
Republicans gaining majority in both lower and upper houses will be in contrast to the previous situation when the ruling Democrats were in minority in the House of Representatives, significantly impacting the legislative agenda of the Joe Biden administration. Winning majority in both Senate and the House of Representatives will be a big boost to the authority of President-elect Donald Trump. He envisages major policy changes in comparison to Joe Biden in both domestic and international arena. This will also mean that there will be no threat of a federal shutdown on budget-related provisions, as Trump will have majority in both the houses. This majority will also allow him to move forward on slashing taxes for both corporates and other citizens, as well as on his announcement on shrinking the number of staff in the federal government, as Trump has already vowed to make major shift in immigration policies and the deportation of illegal immigrants. The majority in both the houses of the Capitol Hill will allow this agenda get easy nod. US Supreme Court may intervene in legislations if challenged in many cases, but Trump will be backed by 6 to 3 conservative majority that includes 3 justices he appointed. So, Donald Trump will be in full control of the US parliamentary politics when he assumes responsibility as 47th President of the United States of America on January 20th next year. The new Congress convenes on January 3, days before Trump's inauguration at the White House. Akhilesh Sawan's report for DD India.
Well, Tuesday is another key date for US President-elect Donald Trump. Having won the elections in almost a short majority in both the houses of Congress, Tuesday will decide whether the judge will throw out his conviction in hush money case or decide otherwise.
The judge in US President-elect Donald Trump's New York criminal case will decide Tuesday whether to throw out his conviction, potentially handing him a major legal win as he prepares to take office again. Trump was convicted of 34 felony counts in May after a jury found he had fraudulently manipulated business records to cover up an alleged sexual encounter with a porn star ahead of the 2016 election. Trump is due to be sentenced on November 26. He may receive a reprieve if Judge Juan Merchan decides to dismiss the case following the Supreme Court's recent ruling on presidential immunity. That landmark ruling by a 6-3 conservative majority gave presidents a sweeping immunity from prosecution for a range of official acts committed while in office. Ahead of the election, Trump's lawyers moved to have the case thrown out in light of the Supreme Court decision, a move which prosecutors have firmly rejected. Alongside the New York case, Trump faces 2 active federal cases. One is related to his effort to overturn the 2020 election, and the other connected to classified documents he allegedly mishandled after leaving office. However, as president, he would be able to intervene to end those cases. Jackie Smith, the special counsel handling both cases, reportedly has begun to wind them down. Antra Sinha for DD India.
Well, the grind of the election season in the US is behind us. The past days and weeks have revealed deep biases, divisions and fissures in the society, and yet there is more in the world to embrace and celebrate. Here's a story of a New York-based dance company, Battery Dance, that shows how performance art has the power to bring diverse people and cultures together in a holistic manner. And there's a special India Connect. DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh reports for more.
Dance has always been a powerful tool of expression. The rhythmic moves tell a story that words often fail. This is Battery Dance, a New York-based dance company that aims to create lasting social impact by increasing human understanding and improving lives through the universal expression of dance.
We've worked in 75 countries around the world, so connecting people, creating beautiful art, uplifting people who don't have the same advantages that we do. So my first exposure to dance really happened in India when I was a teenager living in Mumbai. There's no country that has the diversity of dance in India. I created a production called Songs of Tagore, and I also created a work called Shakti.
Battery Dance performs on the world's stages, teaches, presents and advocates for the field of dance. Through the award-winning Dancing to Connect program, the company uses dance as a tool for building social cohesion and resolving conflicts throughout the world.
So we created a program called Dancing to Connect in 2006, and little did we know that that program that started in Germany, Cambodia, and New York would go around the world to 65 countries, and among them Israel and the Palestinian territories. And what we find is dance is universal, and if we can get away from politics and away from the differences in cultures and religion and just find the common humanity of young people, and that's what we have been able to do through Dancing to Connect.
Battery performances are characterized by choreography and music inspired by worldwide sources, reflecting American society and its multiplicity of cultures. In a world torn by divisions and differences, life and works of Jonathan Hollander is a testimony that hearts can be brought closer and cultures together in a common symphony. With camera person Jay Shankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
While two-time Mauritius Prime Minister Navin Ramgoolam's alliance is set to win the country's parliamentary elections held on Sunday, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Navin Ramgoolam on his electoral victory in Mauritius. In a social media post, PM Modi wished Ramgoolam success and said that he is looking forward to working with him to further strengthen the unique partnership between the two nations. On Monday, the incumbent Prime Minister Pravind Jugnauth conceded defeat in the parliamentary elections and said that his political alliance was headed for a major loss in the polls. Final results are yet to be officially released, but opposition leader Navin Ramgoolam appeared set to take over as Prime Minister for the third time, heading the Alliance of Change coalition. And businessman Alex Didier Fils-Aime has been sworn in as Haiti's new Prime Minister during a ceremony in Port-au-Prince, promising to restore security in the crisis-racked country. Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council appointed entrepreneur and former Senate candidate Alex Didier Fils-Aime as Haiti's new Prime Minister on Monday. The council named Didier to replace Prime Minister Gary Connell, who was appointed in late May. After a ceremony in Port-au-Prince, Didier said transparency and good governance will be a priority for his government and pledged that inclusive, transparent and democratic elections will be held in the country. And the governments at COP29 talks approved Monday new UN sanctions for international carbon markets in a key step toward allowing countries to trade credits to meet their climate targets. On the opening day of the UN climate talks in Azerbaijan, nearly 200 nations agreed a number of crucial ground rules for setting a market in motion, breaking a years-long deadlock over contentious carbon markets. However, other key aspects of the overall framework still need to be negotiated, including creation of a robust market for high-quality credits. The International Emissions Trading Association, a business group that backs global carbon markets, has said total trading in the UN-backed market could be 2030 generate $250 billion a year and cut 5 billion metric tons of carbon output annually. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. India calls for urgent UN Security Council reform, stresses need for representation and change. The winter wonderland Kashmir receives season's first snowfall. And today is Rashtriya Pakshi Divas, the birthday of Dr. Salim Ali, the Birdman who popularized study of birds in India. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Russia's first Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov co-chaired the 25th session of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technological and Cultural Cooperation in New Delhi. The Intergovernmental Commission serves as the highest level forum for bilateral economic collaboration between the two countries, covering a broad range of areas from trade to cultural exchanges. Russian First Deputy Prime Minister will also hold various bilateral meetings during his visit to India. And India has called for urgent reforms to the United Nations Security Council, noting that despite decades of discussions, there have been no significant changes since 1965. India's permanent representative to the UN, Parvathineni Harish, on Monday said that in spite of several decades of collective reiteration of reforms, it is disheartening that no results were seen in this regard since 1965, when the Council was last expanded in the non-permanent category alone. He was addressing the plenary meeting of the General Assembly in New York. Harish pointed to three key factors hindering progress, which includes the ineffective intergovernmental negotiation process, the insistence on consensus by some countries, and the lack of representation for the Global South. He pointed to the example of the G20, where India's presidency last year welcomed the African Union as a member, demonstrating that with political will, change is possible.
Tasked with the responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, the Security Council has too often found itself paralyzed by the geopolitical realities of today, which have evolved far beyond the realm of that of 1945. In today's interconnected world, Mr. President, a more equitable council is very essential. We cannot go on with the relics of the past for the demands of the future. India has consistently championed a cooperative, inclusive, and consultative approach to international relations. We firmly believe that the calls for reformed multilateralism, with Security Council reforms at its core, is supported by the overwhelming majority of the membership.
Well, India has leapfrogged into the semiconductor technology, with Defence Research and Development Organisation of India designing a 4-inch silicon carbide chips and 150-watt gallium nitride chips. They will fuel next-generation applications in artificial intelligence and aerospace. These lighter, faster and more efficient semiconductors will be deployed in radars, unmanned systems and 5G and satellite communications. A small production facility has been built at Hyderabad in southeast India to march ahead towards self-reliance or Atmanirbhar Bharat vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And moving on, campaigning for the first phase of assembly polls in East India's Jharkhand ended on Monday. 43 assembly constituencies will go to the polls in the first phase on Wednesday. Elections for Jharkhand assembly will be held in 2 phases. Voting for the second and the final phase will be held on November 20th, while counting will take place on November 23rd. And the Equality Index of India's capital, New Delhi, continues to remain in very poor category on Tuesday morning. The Central Pollution Control Board recorded an alarming level of pollution with AQI of 355 in several parts of Delhi. Areas were covered in smog even after 2 weeks post-Diwali. Residents have been complaining of breathing issues amid deteriorating air quality. And in Jammu and Kashmir, security forces pack your bags and head to the winter wonderland. And on to some business news now. Vistara joint venture between Tata Group and Singapore Airlines will fully merge with Air India on Tuesday, marking a transition into a single consolidated service under the Air India banner. The integrated Air India Vistara entity took its first flight from Doha to Mumbai on Monday night after wrapping up its last day of flight operations. On Monday, Vistara operated its last flight from East India's Odisha to Delhi, marking the end of the 9-year journey. The flight UK 782 departed from Odisha Biju Patnaik International Airport and landed at Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport. And Indian equity markets gained ground on Tuesday with the BSE Sensex rising by 0.19%, while the Nifty 50 advanced 0.29%. The upward trend followed a cautious start of the week on Monday when global cues, foreign institutional investors selling and muted quarterly earnings reports kept gains limited. Analysts suggest investors avoid buying Hindalco, ONGC and Asian Paints at current prices due to various technical indicators and market trends. Well, the National Bird Day is being celebrated today in India. The day was declared by the Government of India on the occasion of the birth anniversary of India's famous ornithologist and naturalist Dr. Salim Ali. He was fondly called the Birdman of India.
The study of birds, ornithology, is incomplete without the mention of the person famously known as the Birdman of India. Dr. Salim Muizuddin Abdul Ali, the first person to conduct systematic bird surveys across India, the first person who advanced the study of birds in the country. Born on 12th November 1896, Dr. Salim popularized ornithology in India. Dr. Ali helped create the Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary and the Ranganathittu Bird Sanctuary. Dr. Ali was awarded the Padma Bhushan and the Padma Vibhushan for his contribution and research in the field of ornithology. Dr. Ali also received the Gold Medal of the British Ornithologists' Union in 1967. Salim not only researched about birds but also contributed to the arena of protection of nature, natural conservation. His contribution to research and writings on birds is the guidebook for every person curious about the world of birds. His famous publication, The Book of Indian Birds, popularized ornithology among the common man. He later collaborated with the famous ornithologist S. Dillon Ripley to write the extensive 10-volume handbook of the birds of India and Pakistan, which took 10 years of research to complete. The 10-volume work covers the birds of the subcontinent, their appearance, habitat, breeding habits, and migration pattern, among other things. Dr. Salim Ali wrote numerous journal articles, popular and academic books, and field guides. Among the several books authored by him, the Book of Indian Birds still remains the Bible for budding ornithologists. Bureau Report, DD India.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.